Hello, everybody. It's John Scanlon with the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, and we are joined today by Dr. Kate Beaven Marks.
Hello,
Kate, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you. Excellent. You are going to be joining us in Dublin,
I am.
and you are going to be talking about
Rapid therapy techniques.
aha.
Now, it's going to be talking a lot more doing though.
People are going to be doing a little bit of work in this.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those sort of talks where you just lecture at a group for an hour because it's not the sort of talk that I would want to go to. So I'm a really big fan of talking about it, explaining it, maybe even demoing it, and then you get to do it for yourself. Because if you do it, you're going to remember it. You'll also see how other people do it. You can chat to them after the talk and find out what their experiences were. And it's a really good way of increasing not only your understanding, but remembering it as well.
Yeah, we learn by doing, don't we? At least I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Of course, Nate, that's not the only thing you're doing.
No, we have hypno-games.
All right,
Now,
Nate.
whether you're an absolute beginner or you've been doing hypno for 30 years, stage hypnosis, street hypnosis, hypnotherapy, doesn't matter. Turn up, come along with a can play mindset. And even if you are the shyest of people, you will have fun. We split you up into groups, and there's all sorts of different group activities, some in hypnosis, some out of hypnosis. I've run this a few times now. The games come out of the book Hypno-Games, but they're slightly adapted. So no point learning all of those 75 games because the Irish event will have some slight tweaks on it just to make it a little bit more interesting. But you will definitely not only have fun, but it's likely you're going to gain some extra knowledge and some extra skills just by playing.
Well, I've done them twice, both in London and Vegas, and I had really great fun doing them. It was very fun. It really was.
Thank you for coming.
So, do you want to tell people a little bit about who is Dr. Kate Beaven Marks?
Hmm.
How did you get into this wonderful world of hypnosis?
Um, I was always fascinated by language and how what we say influences people. So my earlier career or my previous career, not traffic wardens, but possibly almost as bad for some people. I managed health and safety and occupational health in high risk industry.
Hmm, exciting.
So one of my occupations, one of my employers was, we call it metal recycling. Actually, it's the largest scrap metal group in Europe. And it's quite a dangerous environment, or it was. If you said to somebody, oh, be careful you don't get your hand caught in that machine, what would actually happen is their mental imagery would take that hand closer and closer and closer to that cutting blade. Now, if you said instead, make sure you keep your hand well clear, same meaning, but it isn't, because their mental imagery is completely different. So how you use language in high risk industry actually has a huge impact. So I got really into the psychology of communication. And obviously that includes NLP and most definitely hypnosis. And my very first sort of hypnosis training was with a guy who was very, very Ericksonian. Then I got corrupted by a stage hypnotist, I think is what he would say. And I learned stage hypnosis. So I learned very direct and dynamic hypnosis. And I would say for everybody who's learning hypnosis and hypnotherapy or street hypnosis, learn both. It's a really good tool to be able to switch from something more conversational or permissive or indirect or metaphorical straight into do this and do this now. And you just never know when one approach or the other will be exactly right for a client or that person you're hypnotizing in the pub. So I was really fascinated by this. And I started learning more and more about hypnosis. I went on every course that I could find. In fact, my doctorate cost me a fortune. I stopped counting when the bill got into six figures.
Ouch.
I know, self-funding. But it meant that I spent 6 years going on pretty much every hypnosis or hypnotherapy course I could find
Yeah.
to work out how hypnosis is taught and how it's learned. And there's a surprising difference sometimes between the two. A lot of people, when they teach, are very comfortable telling. And just as we were saying earlier, we learn by doing. So a lot of students do better doing rather than just listening. So I was fascinated by this difference, and I maxed out my research time to the day, and
Mm.
then spent 2 years writing it up and analyzing all of the findings. That opened doors to me, and it meant that I was able to teach hypnotherapy in some wonderful environments. I actually taught on the University of West London's master's degree programme for clinical hypnotherapy. I was their examiner for that. So got to read all of these wonderful research projects and help people do research. I became chair of the British Society of Clinical Hypnosis, and I'm on the board with the Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council, the CNHC. So I represent hypnotherapy as a profession. And that's great. I'm a big fan of, if you want something to change, you need to be inside rather than moaning on the outside. So
Mhm.
it gives me an opportunity to help guide and direct how we evolve as a profession.
Yeah, and that's hugely important actually. There's a couple of things you said in the middle of all that. Just that's fairly vast level of knowledge of hypnosis, but I'm really intrigued by the teaching and learning one. So what are you saying? You're saying that as people teach, they like to talk too. So it's the theory behind,
It's one of the easiest ways of teaching is what used to be called chalk and talk,
right?
where these days it's putting up a PowerPoint, and I'm sure you've seen these presentations at conferences where there's a PowerPoint and they read every single word off of
Yeah,
the PowerPoint, or they've got copious notes and they're reading every single word.
yeah.
That isn't how we absorb information.
Okay,
We can, but research shows it's about 10% is retained, and that's only short term.
right.
We need to engage with information on different levels for it to stick.
And we
So
do that through action, through
yeah,
learning, through okay,
we need to engage with it, and actually engage with it more than once and in different ways.
right, okay. So we
And
learn
that
other
gets you
various components.
more resilient learning.
Right, okay. Okay, that's a really interesting, and I know a lot of the training schools will you end up doing a lot of the practice as well as the theory, but it's really interesting just to get your take on it from someone who's 6 years of study on it.
Oh, it was 6 years of practical, yeah, and
Right,
that was after I'd qualified as a hypnotherapist.
right.
So it was
So were you
absolutely.
working at the same time? Were you working as a therapist at the same time?
Yes, I was. I was foolishly initially running two careers, because I
Right.
had a career in hypnotherapy and I was teaching hypnotherapy while still doing my health and safety. And then I managed to jump into doing hypnotherapy full time. And you would think I would actually have some free time. No, the available time just got swallowed up into the world of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Uh, so
Obviously, something you enjoy though.
it is. There are no 2 days that are the same. I'm either writing a book, or I'm teaching in person, or I'm teaching online, or I'm supervising somebody, or I'm creating teaching resources, or I'm marking homework. Oh, marking homework. um, but it makes for a very interesting and diverse career.
Yeah, of course. And the stuff that you're then doing with the British complementary therapy, is that?
So the CNHC,
Yeah,
Complementary and Natural Healthcare
yeah.
Council. Yeah.
So is what is that? Is that about changing or is that about expanding natural health and natural healing? Is that its role, or what is it?
Well, the CNHC was set up by the government effectively as a voluntary regulator.
Right.
So they have a sort of like an overseeing, like you've got the GMC for doctors, General Medical Council. You have a statutory regulation route, and you've also got a voluntary regulation route.
Right.
And the CNHC is one of the biggest voluntary regulators. There are a couple of others as well. And their role is to regulate how practitioners work.
Okay.
So fundamentally, their role is for public protection.
Gotcha.
So when you hear talk about the UK core curriculum for hypnotherapy, which actually came from the National Occupational Standards, the CNHC revised those for all sorts of different therapies: hypnotherapy, reflexology, massage, sports massage, and all sorts of different therapies. I think they've got about 17 at the moment.
So that's, if you like, the training standards then for the UK. Is that effectively?
In a way.
In a way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And from that perspective, how do you view, say, the world of hypnotherapy now as a profession?
I think the world of hypnotherapy now is diverse.
Right.
One of the recommendations that I made in my doctorate all those many years ago was that I recommended that we had an entry-level training that everybody did with a set curriculum, so that everybody had the fundamentals, ethical practice, all the safety stuff. Everybody learned. And then if you wanted to go off and do street hypnosis or stage hypnosis or hypnotherapy or NLP with hypnosis or research, so if you're a psychology student, you need to do this hypnotherapy module first. And I think that would give everybody ultimately the same foundation.
Right.
What we have at the moment, hypnotherapy is fed into by over 200 different psychotherapy models. So some people will do psychoanalysis, and they will be incredibly opposed in style to somebody who does behavioral hypnotherapy. And I think in a way, we all need to know what each other is doing, which is why conferences are really good.
I was about to just say the same thing myself, actually. Because you get exposed to all different kinds of principles and disciplines and models and ways of doing stuff. Because everything is effective if the client is happy that it's going to work for them. It's expectation and belief, in essence, is where we're looking to get to.
Yeah. I was talking to a street hypnotist at one of the conferences in the States years ago, just having a chat at the conference. And we were talking about his way of doing something, my way of doing something. And his way, there was just a slight difference. Like, oh, I wonder what that's going to be like. And I tried it out. I thought, oh, actually, that makes such a difference. And sometimes you just need to take a different angle to. It's easy to, because our profession is quite isolating, it's easy for our comfort zone to contract and our view to narrow. And actually, it's good sometimes to have different perspectives.
Yes.
And explore, not necessarily say I've got to change, but explore what it would be like if you did do something differently.
And it is sometimes about just taking that one little nugget that you find. I mean, I've been at presentations 2 hours long, and I may have been, not as engrossed in those 2 hour conversations as maybe I should have been. But I took one little nugget out, and there's one thought in particular, one that I'm thinking about right now, which I now use all the time. And it's really effective. But it was just one little nugget out of a 2 hour thing. And yeah, so I mean, we do get all kinds of little pieces of information, and it is about being open enough to explore and being flexible enough just to go, yes, there are new things out there. And ultimately, it is the client that changes. We have words and tools and techniques, but not every client likes the same thing either. I think,
I often say to people, if you're going to a conference, you take two selves of you. Take the beginner's mind, who knows nothing about the topic, and
Yes.
absorb just what they're saying, but take the experienced practitioner, whether it's street, stage, or therapy, with all of the clients and people that you've worked with, so that you can relate what they're talking about to people that you've already worked with. And that gets you two different streams of information, which both can be very, very helpful.
Absolutely. And in your work, have you noticed that the number of hypnotherapists has expanded in the UK, or is that just the impression I'm getting?
I think with more and more engagement with the internet, more people are visible.
Right. Okay.
We don't know how many people practice hypnotherapy. Some people are members of multiple professional bodies. I
Right.
know I am. Other people are members of no professional bodies. There's a lot of people that do hypnotherapy, and I'm not too fond of the term hobbyist, but they'll do maybe a little bit of work for friends and family and friends of friends. Do they count as hypnotherapists? Well, if they're doing hypnotherapy, probably. So whether they're full-time, part-time, paid, unpaid, it's very difficult to do a survey because people just aren't reachable.
Right. Okay.
If they're not advertising anywhere, you don't really know that they exist.
No, absolutely. But in terms of the perception of the profession in the UK, has that improved, or is it
I think that there's some research that found that over there I am citing research. Oh dear.
you
There's
promised you wouldn't, but here we go.
I won't cite the authors, I promise.
No, don't.
There's some research that came out that I found fascinating, that during lockdown, people became more interested in complementary therapy.
Okay.
Now, while some things haven't stuck and people have gone back to coughing in any direction and so forth, it's interesting, and public health people are complaining about that already. It's really interesting that the interest in complementary therapy seems to be growing beyond that interest that started during lockdown and that time period. People are also becoming much better informed.
Right.
There are better internet sources of information. It's easier for people to find information than ever before. So I think people will just have a look on Google or another search engine and just go, well, what is the best way of treating anxiety? And they'll get things other than medication or go and see your doctor.
Yeah. Okay. And so just from that perspective, how do you think the profession can increase? Like, we've all been in the room where someone's come in and went, I've tried this. You're the last, so how does the profession raise itself up, basically, I suppose?
Therapy is commonly a last resort. Sometimes that's because of cost.
Yes.
It's cheaper to go to the chemist and get some over-the-counter vitamins.
Yes.
Or supplements than it is to go and see a hypnotherapist, generally, anyway. I think the key thing is professionalism.
Okay.
And that is sometimes where we struggle. And it would be good to have a baseline, back to what I was saying with
what you were talking about earlier, standards.
A baseline of skills, so that people have an understanding of professional conduct.
Yes.
One of the things that I found even before lockdown was that some people will go and do, call it a proper course, but a practitioner style course, talking hypnotherapy.
Yep.
Some people do a practitioner style course, and they would learn all the non-sexy stuff because that's part of the course.
Yep.
Other people would do, I called it guru shopping. They'll go from one person to another and they'll learn this technique and that technique and this technique, but they'll never go on a course for the non-sexy stuff because, one, nobody's teaching it because it's not sexy, and two, there's no immediate gratification.
Yes.
Not a new tool, a new shiny technique to use. So some people miss out on the absolute fundamentals that we need as a profession.
Okay. Gotcha. So how does that change then? Is that as a profession that it comes together?
I don't know.
Okay. That's one for discussion at the conference. Anyone want to join us? You know where to find us.
I think, yeah, maybe we need to have, I don't know. I really don't know quite what an answer is for that.
Right. Okay.
It links in a lot to quick fixes, and that then comes down to a fundamental view of what hypnotherapy is, and whether it is, you know, a one size fits all, or whether it is something that you really need to have an understanding of not just what to do, but why you're doing it, so you can make it bespoke.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more in the second part of it, because, you know, as there's 8 billion people in the planet, and give or take one or two, and none of us are the same. So therefore, not everything's going to work. Some are visual, some are auditory, some are kinesthetic. Different techniques will work with different people. And we've, you know, so I don't think you can have that universal. It's not one tablet fits all size. That doesn't work.
And we do know that, and this is generally from interviews with people that have gone the complementary therapy route, and hypnosis is technically a complementary therapy, it's not alternate, separate discussion entirely, but people will only usually go and see one hypnotherapist, then they'll go and see a nutritionist or an acupuncturist, but they won't go to several to give several a try. So if somebody hits, I wouldn't say a bad one, but somebody who doesn't have the breadth and depth of training that is needed, then they may get disillusioned. And that then, you know, we all know that bad reviews, or, you know, negative comments will spread far more than positive ones will.
Absolutely. That's an interesting point, actually. That is definitely something to consider. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, because I know in my own head, so much of this is just about expanding, and there's so much good. Like, I was even talking to a client recently, you know, who was kind of completely blown away, and it was like, he said to me, I can't remember what way he phrased it, but my reply to him was, if I was dealing with smoking and weight loss, which I don't deal with, like, I'd be shouted at from all over the rooftops and people wouldn't know who I was. But because I mainly deal with emotional and mental disorders, people don't want to talk about that. So you don't, you know, so it doesn't become as, the word doesn't spread, basically.
Something I say to my students is, it's a good idea to work with a diverse range of clients, because John, who's come for golf improvement, may well talk about you at the 19th hole. Michael, who came for erectile dysfunction, probably isn't going to talk to everybody about how amazing you are.
So I'm going down the golfing route. That's basically the moral I'm taking from this. Yeah, Monday to Wednesday is golf, and I'll do the other stuff, and Thursday to Friday. Okay, Thursday and Saturday. Right. So, Kate, you've spoken all over the world, haven't you? I mean, I know I've seen you in Vegas and I've seen you in London, but you really have taught in so many different places.
I've been a conference junkie. I do like conferences. I find it fascinating to talk to other therapists all around the world and find out how they do hypnotherapy. I guess I'm still doing my little bit of research, because it is really interesting, and there are some very diverse perspectives and applications all around the world. And some people aren't allowed to call themselves hypnotherapists, they have to call themselves hypnotists or consulting hypnotists. So finding that out, really, because I teach, it informs my teaching, it informs my therapy practice as well, and ultimately probably ends up in some of my books. But it is just so interesting. And I love presenting. You know, I just find it, I'm not one of those people that get nervous and wound up about it. Well, at least I haven't yet.
I don't start either, because you're very good at presenting.
Have that moment of excitement, but you need a bit of excitement to present, otherwise you'd be flat, it would be boring.
Absolutely. You were telling me about, was it 1,100 people was the
Yeah,
you may tell people that story, because that was quite interesting.
I like all sorts of different crowds. This coming week, I'm presenting at the James Braid Society in London, and I think they're expecting about 25 people, which is great.
Mhm.
It's they've just restarted doing the society in person. But I love all sorts of different sizes. And my biggest conference so far was actually 1,100 people. We think 1,100, roughly. We didn't count all of them. And normally for this particular conference, I'm a breakout room speaker, so about 300 people. So I'd gone prepared for 300 people. I had 300 handouts. I had some coins that I used as part of my presentation, making it active, getting people engaged. And it was a 2-day conference, and I turned up on the first day, and I was chatting to the lovely helpers. I gave IT my presentation because I like a PowerPoint. It gets videoed.
Yeah.
And uploaded it, checked it, all great. And then in the afternoon, I was chatting about it, and I thought, and she said, the presenters coordinator said, she said, "Oh no, you're not in a breakout room because your talk got so busy last year. We put you in the main hall." Oh, and I'm
Okay.
thinking,
So
have
you
I
went
got
from
time?
300 to 1,100.
Yeah, have I got time to print all the extra handouts? Have I got 1,100 coins? No, this is getting challenging.
Mhm.
So I went home. Luckily, it was near home. Went home, changed the presentation. So I got them to imagine the coins rather than actually having coins. And I put all of the activity stuff onto the PowerPoint. So it's up there on the screen. So no need for handouts. And really loved it. Took it in the next morning, checked with IT that it was loaded onto the system. And then people kept coming in. I was like, where are all these people coming from? And they were standing at the back, and it was like, oh, this is lovely. And the energy in the room is amazing.
Mm.
And then the second slide in, I was like, that's the old PowerPoint. So thinking on my feet and thinking, well, what on earth can I get them to do? Luckily, I sort of spun it that magnetic fingers was part of the communication strategy that we were talking about. And I got everybody doing magnetic fingers.
1,100 people doing magnetic
The
fingers.
buzz, the noise, surprisingly, of everybody standing up and doing magnetic fingers was really interesting. And I asked the organizer to go off and ask IT to please put the right presentation up. The organizer waved from the door. I'm like, what does that mean? What does a wave mean? The activity ended, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to have to go for it and see. Otherwise, I'll just talk them through it.
Mhm.
So click the slide, and luckily,
Interesting.
the correct PowerPoint was up, and I was able to get on. But it was one of those things. I often teach people presentation skills for conferences and all sorts of events. So always be prepared. What could foreseeably go wrong? And actually, how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not just a lesson for conferences, that's a lesson for life, but even in the therapy room as well, because you never know what you're going to face. That's actually really interesting. Fair play to you. I'm not sure I'd have recovered as quickly now, but there you go. Seasoned practitioner. I promise you'll have everything you need for Dublin. I promise.
I'd be fine if I haven't. Actually, that reminds me, I had a
Yeah,
client.
actually, there's the comfort in for me in that. You'll be fine if you don't,
I'll be
absolutely.
fine. I had a client referred to me years ago. Um, Lovely, mature gentleman, and he came in and sat down. He's like, "Where's your hypnotist watch?" Um, why? He says, "Well, I can't go into hypnosis without a hypnotist watch."
Okay.
Luckily, I was wearing a necklace with a pendant on the end. So I'm like, well, ladies don't use that type of watch because they're for gentlemen. What ladies do, and I took my necklace off and said, we use our hypnotist's necklace.
Very, very good.
Always wear a necklace, ladies, when you're hypnotizing people.
And lads, we better find something else just in case. Yeah, take off the watch. Here you go.
You could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or just carry a pen. Yeah, just watch the pen.
Absolutely. Okay, what is it about conferences that you like?
I like the diversity.
Right.
People, I mentioned before, hypnotherapy is an isolated profession.
Yeah.
Some therapists won't talk to anybody else about what they do
Yeah.
all year. And then they get to come and they get to hear other perspectives. And it isn't just the talks. And I know you put a lot of work into getting amazing speakers, but it's the out of talk stuff that's as important. It's that person that you chat to when you're queuing for coffee, or when you're sitting having a sandwich, or even just afterwards in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You're networking, you're making connections. It becomes a community rather than just individuals.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know, because we haven't, I mean, there's only year two of this and there hasn't been one before, but I mean, I've been in London 3 or 4 times now at this stage, and been in Vegas and been in various other places. And I just absolutely love it. That was the strong sense you get is, when you go back in year two, you've met people and you haven't seen them in 12 months. And it's funny because when we did it in May earlier, it was like, since then we've had about 3 in-person events and loads of online events. And like, there's a WhatsApp community, there's a Facebook, and the WhatsApp is far more active than the Facebook group. But it's like people are always engaging, supporting. And that all came from one notion that I actually had in London last year. No, 2 years ago actually now. But we're in January, aren't we? Yeah. So 23, anyway, November 22. But it is that, and it is about not just learning, but it is really about community. And it's actually about empowering therapists to support a greater version of both themselves and the profession.
Absolutely. And from a professional development perspective, it's important, as it is from a personal development perspective. People will go to a conference and they might be quite shy. They might not be used to crowds, but just going there because they've got a purpose, they will expand their comfort zone, and they'll go back home and they will benefit from that expansion and from that interaction.
And of course, they'll also have a common bond, being hypnotists.
Yeah.
Which of course is a very strong connection anyway, particularly when you don't see that many therapists outside of normal everyday life.
So true.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to you presenting in Dublin. It's going to be, and the whole event's going to be great fun. And we were talking earlier before, which we can't tell anybody until sometime in probably Saturday. What does hypnosis mean to you?
Hypnosis or hypnotherapy?
You can say both. I haven't got that reply before, so there you go.
So I'm going to do it in reverse order. Hypnotherapy for me is how we use all of our resources together with hypnosis to enable people to change. Right. And for me, that's a collaborative change process. It isn't done to, and for even the people that want hypnotherapy done to them, it becomes collaborative with good hypnotherapy. Hypnosis for me is so much wider because there are so many applications that it would be impossible to use all of them in anybody's lifetime. But it's also something that I don't even think we've scratched the surface of yet.
Right, okay.
We have what we use now, but it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
There'll be new ways of using hypnosis. Look at the evolution of sport hypnosis.
Yes.
Of using hypnosis with children, of medical hypnosis. So there's so many different applications that I think it's a profession where you'll never get bored.
I love that. I really do. I love that. You're right. It as you think about it, the capabilities for it are endless, because once you're using the mind, which is, and I've said this to clients, it's like people teach you how to clean your house, how to learn, how to clothe yourself, how to eat, but nobody teaches you how to mind your mind.
No.
And actually, if you don't mind your mind, you won't eat, you won't clothe yourself properly, you won't clean the house, you won't. So it is, but that stretches across every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and across all of our lives, actually. So into every segment, it's about helping people to understand the importance of hypnosis and hypnotherapy and how it can, and that's what these conferences are all about, and that's what these communities are all about. And that's one of the things that I want to move further up the agenda.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to Dublin. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to Dublin already, and I'm glad I've got my flights booked, my hotel booked, and my talk and hypno games already.
There we go. Guys, you're going to absolutely love Kate's presentation, and you're going to love hypno games. So do be there on the Friday night. For anyone who's either staying over or is in Dublin and is still going back home after that, absolutely fine. Just come on up. You're going to have fun.
They
Kate,
will.
thank you so much. And I really looking forward to seeing you in Dublin.
You are most welcome.
And thank you guys, wherever you are and whatever time of the day it is that you're watching it. Have an amazing day.